attendee in listen-only mode.
A person, you will add him as a user, you will basically give him user and password. But if it is anything which is non-human, so then it would be access key. If it is something which is present in AWS itself, then you will give it a role. Okay, you learn that when you learn AWS, but for the people who know AWS, you know it. So what I need to do is, okay, for the application credentials, we need access keys and secret key. Okay, and then creating access key and secret key. So let me go to a service which is called as IAM. I'm not going to give any screenshots, sir. You can Google it out, right? Go to IAM. Okay, and then get into users. చాలా ఉన్నాయి నా దగ్గర చెత్త తీసేద్దాం ఆగండి. I'm deleting all the users. Let me try to create a user and let me call this user as what should I call? Okay, Python development. Then it is asking, do you want to give a console access? I don't want any console access. I want programmatic access. Let me go with next. Ideally, you have to give him only necessary permissions of what he wants. So for example, if this user is supposed to control only EC2 machines in particular region, you need to give that permission. Okay, but that is the discussion for AWS class. So I'm not doing that. What I'll try to do is I'll try to go to attach policies and then I will select administrator access. Okay, and then click on next and create user. Are we clear on this? Okay, now select this user and then if you scroll down, okay, not secure, you will see something called as security credentials, and in here you would see something called as access keys. So once you download this access key, never ever share it in public, because this is as good as your username and password. When we were doing Terraform in one of our session, by mistake I have committed access key and secret key, one of the TF file in GitHub. In 3 days my bill was 7 lakh rupees. Yeah, this might happen to you also. AWS has reverted the bill, that's a different story, but never ever share access key and secret key. In whatever approach which I'm going to share, you will not be sharing any credentials. Okay, but fine. Are we clear? This is supposed to be secure. Select CLI, or you can write that I'm using it for local code, whatever it is. Go with next. Description for development and create an access key. Are you seeing access key and secret key? Now, ideally, what you can do is you can download this as a CSV file so that you can refer it in your systems. So that is a better way. Okay, or even if you don't do it, what you can do is you can regenerate access key and secret key. It's not that difficult. Okay, so now on everyone's system, I think AWS CLI is installed. Yes or no? Yeah. So once AWS CLI is installed, then all you need to do is execute a command which is called as AWS configure. Click on enter. Once you execute AWS configure, it is asking what is access key ID. Copy this, paste it over here. Secret key, copy it, paste it over here. I am using Mumbai region, so that's the reason. Since I am using Mumbai, I'll be using AP-South-1. If you are interested in any other region, give that region's code. Okay, so AP-South-1, and I don't want to change any default output for. So that's it. Now this is where we have configured credentials. Now nothing magical is happening on your system. In your system, there will be a home directory. What is your home directory on a Windows machine? C drive, users and username. On Linux machines, it is /home/username. In the world of Mac, I think it is /users and username. Okay, you have to go to your home directory. If you want to go to your home directory, open terminal on any of your systems and just do cd tilde. You will go into home directory. And in this, you will try to see a folder called as .aws. ఇక్కడ మీరు ls అంటే credentials అని ఒక ఫైల్ కనబడుతుంది. You will see a file called as credentials. Whatever credentials which you have entered over there are stored here. Okay. So your system, your CLI reads your access key and secret key from here. Your Python code also is reading access key and secret key from. Okay. Are we clear on this so far? So you have configured credentials. Now configure as. Okay. Now the next thing is, if you try to look into this Boto3's documentation. Okay. So here you will have all different examples. Okay. Right. Am I clear on this, sir? So if you try to go and look into, there will be every AWS resource. Okay. And what is the AWS resource which you are interested in? EC2. Sorry, saying EC2. So in EC2, there is something called as client. Okay. So generally in Boto3, to communicate with AWS, we have to create client or resource object. Okay, sir. ఇప్పుడు మీరు EC2 తో ఏమైనా చేయాలంటే EC2 క్లయింట్ కావాలి, లేదంటే EC2 రిసోర్స్ కావాలి. अगर आपको EC2 से बात करना है, इधर आपको EC2 का क्लाइंट चाहिए, EC2 का रिसोर्स चाहिए. So client generally contains low level APIs and resource generally contains high level APIs. But for us it doesn't matter. So you need to basically look into this. Are you saying in EC2 there is a client and there is already a resource? So if you try to look into resource, you will have individual resources and then you can play around with these resources. For example, in AWS, instance is a virtual machine, right? So if you try to click on this instance, it is trying to tell that you can create a resource like this. And for this resource, they are trying to tell that these are the methods that are available. These are the methods that are available. So what you use is your choice. Or the point is, there is no need for you to really worry about whether I have to choose a resource or a client, because for whatever activities which you and me are doing, it will be mostly client in all of the cases. Okay. But there is no nothing to worry about with respect to resources and clients. Okay. But resources will have high level functionality. Client will have low level functionality. Low level functionality means you will find a method for literally everything. Okay. Resource lo konja high level undochu. Okay. So resource is convenient, whereas client is easier to use because it will have all the methods. So are we clear on this? Now what is my idea? I want to start a EC2 instance or stop an EC2 instance. So what I'll try to do is, the first thing. Okay, 1 minute, sir. Let me, because if I enable this AI agent, it will try to write all of my code. I don't want that to happen. That is something when I want things to be in quicker mode. Okay. Right. Now what I'll try to do is, I'll try to tell that. Oh, sorry. Define start underscore EC2. And for this, what I want you to pass is, I want you to pass instance underscore ID. Okay. So give me the instance ID and I will try to start your EC2 machine. Let us just first write definitions. Then we'll figure out how to do that. So what this method does, this method starts an EC2 instance. Okay. Now, fine. Generally, EC2 instance will be of type string instance ID. Now, over here. Okay. So in the similar way, I'll try to basically write one more method, which is called as I can try to write terminate, delete, whatever you want. And there are methods already available for that. Okay. And one more thing which I would require is, I would require get client object. Okay. Yes or no? Because in EC2 we need to get client. So this method gets the EC2 client with CLI credentials. I am not going to take any access key or secret key. You can also create clients by passing access keys and secret keys. Not a good idea. Use CLI credentials or environmental variables. Okay, right. Now, let me go to this documentation where I select EC2 client. And generally, they give you this stuff, how to create a client object. Okay, are you seeing Boto3? And in Boto3, there is a client which is called as Boto3.client. And what it returns a class of type EC2-client. And in this, you have these many methods. ఇందులో మీకు నచ్చిన మెథడ్ వాడుకోండి. Okay, right. So shall we create a client object? Yes. Okay. Fine, sir. So what is it? str, and this method returns none. ఇదేమి రిటర్న్ చేయదు. Remember type hinting, and this method returns none. Get client returns EC2.client. And now if you want to figure out what is EC2.client, let me try to see if I can get something from this, from Boto3. అసలు Boto3 ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయలేదు కదా నేను. Yeah, first let me install Boto3. So for that, pip install Boto3. Okay. Now what you can do is import Boto3 now. Okay. So now there is something in Boto3. If you try to see, this is the whole Boto3 library. ఇందులో మీకు కావాల్సింది దొరుకుతాయి. Boto3 EC2. This is the whole code of what Boto3 is all about. Okay, fine. Let us not worry about that too much. Okay. దీనికి ఇప్పుడు ప్రజెంట్ టైప్ హింటింగ్ ఉందిలేండి, ఎందుకంటే ఇంటర్నల్ మెథడ్ కాబట్టి. ఓకే, సో వాట్ ఇస్ ఇట్ ఐ నీడ్ టు డూ? ఐ నీడ్ టు blindly basically create a client object. So return Boto3 dot client of, you need to pass the service which is EC2. And now if you want to basically look into what this Boto3 dot client does, it basically creates, this is the code of Boto3 dot client. And now it depends on what is the object type, it basically tries to return EC2. So in EC2, it will try to do whatever object type that is required, and it will try to send it across. Resources. And now if you try to look at resources, you will have all the methods. There is no need for you to understand this code, but if you want, it is not that difficult also. Yeah, but prastanik manaki em avasam ledu, we got the client. Okay, sir. Now once I get this client, what is it I want to do? I want to start an EC2 instance. Okay, so how can I start? All you have to do is you have to look into these methods. Okay, so you can do many things in EC2. All of them are present over here. Okay, so if you try to see, there is something called as delete key pair. Yeah, but what is it I want to do? I want to start, right? So let me try to go with start. Are you seeing a method called as start instances? Let me click on this. So this is a EC2 client dot start instance. And now if you want, you can start and stop EC2 instance, but the point which it is trying to tell is I need to do client dot start instances, and I can pass instance ID. This is the method syntax. So now I have taken only one string. So what I'll do is, okay, client is equals to get client of. So this method will basically get me client from here, and then client dot start underscore instances. And in this, what is that I need to pass? I need to pass instance IDs, which is array of strings. So I'll be basically trying to pass instance underscore IDs is equals to array of instance ID. Why array unte array తీసుకోవాలి కదా, రూల్ ఏమీ లేదు. Okay, right. So now, do you want to pass any additional info? Additional info is what? Is it a reserved machine? And then there is one more return which is called as dry run. Dry run will not actually perform, it will try to tell you what it would do. And when you execute this, what is it we'll get? We'll get a response. And what is the structure of this response? So what is, whenever anything starts with curly braces in Python, what is it? It is a dictionary. Okay. So now we are getting a dictionary with all of these instances. So I'll try to basically store response. Okay. Now response, what is the structure? It gives instance ID and it gives current state. So how can I basically try to write it? So print, okay, f response. Response the structure enti? Okay, let me try to write it. Okay, instance with ID is in whatever state that is present. It could be in pending state, running state, shutdown state, or whatever it is. But how do I go to here? So to go to here, I am just trying to write this state is equals to response of starting instances. Do you agree with me on this? Okay. In dictionary, whenever I get a dictionary, this is a list of items. And then since it is list of items, use this. And out of this, the first item, since I'm starting only one machine, the first machine ID will be what I'm trying to look into. And in that, you will have current state. And current state basically gives you this. You need to write of name. డిక్షనరీలో ఆఫ్లే కదా మనం వాడేది. సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ దీని ఎంత వింతగా చూస్తున్నారు ఏంటి సార్ అసలు. సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ ఐ ట్రై టు రైట్ x is equals to, okay, items colon array of, okay, id colon 1, and let us assume that this is what I want. I want the item ID. So what is it I'll try to write? X of items. ఎక్కడి వరకు రాస్తే ఇది మొత్తం అవుతుంది. Now I'll try to write of 0. So I get this. Now I am trying to write of ID. Then I get 1. నేను ఇక్కడ చేసిన దానికి ఏమైనా వింతగా ఉందా అది? Right, I've done the same thing, right? So now this is the state which they will be. Any problem so far? Yeah. Now, if there is a method for stop instance, start instance, obviously there will be a method for stop also. Okay, right? Let us try and look into this. Start instance and stop instance, and then they will not be very much different. Okay, while stopping is asking, do you want me to hibernate? I don't want to hibernate. I want to basically follow the సేమ్ సింటాక్స్. ఏ మాత్రం సిగ్గు లేకుండా ఈ మొత్తం ఎగ్జాక్ట్గా ఇలాగే కాపీ చేసేస్తే ఇది కూడా పని చేస్తుంది. ఓకే, బట్ రాదర్ దాన్ స్టార్ట్ ఇన్స్టెన్సెస్, వాట్ ఇస్ దట్ యూ నీడ్ టు డూ? స్టాప్ ఇన్స్టెన్సెస్. అండ్ లెట్ us try to see the response structure. Response structure is very much important, sir. So here you have used starting instances, there you will be using stopping instances, and after that current state, and then you get this. Antena? Fine, sir. So shall we run this program? Okay. So for now, just to test this program, what I'll try to do is, what is the instance ID which I have over here? So let me go to EC2. Okay. And in EC2 there is this instance. And what is the instance ID? If you try to say this is my instance ID. Now I'll try to write if double underscore name or dunder name is equals to main. That means if someone calls this code directly. Okay. So then let me try to write stop EC2 of this ID. Shall we debug now? Yeah. Right. So right now, what is the state of the machine? It is in running state. Now let me try to debug this. Okay, stop EC2. So first client is equals to get client. Client dot stop instances. Okay. Missing required parameter instance IDs. మనం ఏం పాస్ చేసాం? Oh, it is instance, not instance underscore IDs. It is instance IDs. I have added that underscore. That's the reason why it was failing. Okay. Sigge on the mali modalatame. Right. Now get the client response. And now if you try to look at response, are you seeing stopping instances? In stopping instances of 0, are you seeing current state? And what is the current state? Current state is code is stopping. And now let me try to print this. Let us try to see what is happening on AWS. Okay. Are you seeing is the machine in stopping state? Yes. Now let me try to ఎలాగో స్టాప్ చేసాం కాబట్టి ఇది స్టార్ట్ చేద్దాం. Let us wait for the machine to be మీకు అనిపించవచ్చు బంగారం లాగా స్టార్ట్ బటన్ స్టాప్ బటన్ ఉండి కర్మంతా ఎందుకని. Right? The point is it is not about starting and stopping. It is about automating anything. Yes. So we will never use Python to create infrastructure, but to do some of the automated activities we might be using it. Yeah, because for creating infrastructure anyway we are learning Terraform. Okay, right. Is the machine stopped now? Yeah. So now let me try to start. Okay. Debug. Get client. Okay. Now instance IDs. Okay. Right now it is trying to tell that it is in pending state. But if you wait for some time, it will be in running state. So I'm able to control the state, sir? Yes? Okay. So, okay. First, let me try to commit the code rather than copying and pasting it. Git add, what was that? EC2 underscore demo.py. Git commit -m added EC2 start or stop. Right, sir. Refer here for changes. Okay, sir. Now what I want to do is activity 2. Get all the EC2 instances in every region with a tag env is equals to dev. Okay. ఆ రీజియన్ ఈ రీజియన్ కాదు, AWS లో ఉన్న ప్రతి రీజియన్ లోని EC2 మెషిన్ దేనికైతే env dev అని ట్యాగ్ ఉందో నాకు ఆ మెషిన్ లిస్ట్ అంతా కావాలి, ఎందుకంటే సాయంత్రానికి కట్టేయలేము. సో ద పాయింట్ ఇస్ ఇన్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ ద రీజియన్స్ in my AWS account, if I see a machine with a tag env is equals to dev, then I want to basically get those machines. Probably after that I'll be stopping them. Okay, right. So Now what I want you to do is, this is not a very difficult code. Okay, this is very simple. Not audible. Guys, am I not audible to you? నాట్ ఆడిబుల్ అంటే నో అని కొడుతున్నారు, అంటే వినపడినట్టే కదా. రైట్, ప్లీజ్ rejoin, others are able to hear. Yeah, right sir. Fine then. So now what I want you to do is, okay, let us try to break this problem. Okay, so first, how to get all the valid regions in my account using Boto3. Because the reason why I'm trying to tell is, if you go to AWS, for me there are regions which I am not using. In your company there might be regions where they might be disabling because they don't want to use it. There might be only active regions, might be only few. So in many of the regions, when you open AWS account, Hyderabad will not be shown. It will be in this disabled list. If you want, you have to enable it. Okay. My first thing is, how do I get all the valid regions? Then code would say mantla. Okay. So for that, okay, either Google it or ask Perplexity. Okay, right. And then this is the first thing. Okay. Now, once you do this, how to get all EC2 instances? Okay, right. So these two things, I want you to Google it out or use Perplexity and then try to see if that code is something which you are understanding or not. నేను మిమ్మల్ని రాయమని కూడా అడగట్లా, అసలు జనరేట్ అయింది అలా అర్థమవుతుందా లేదని, బికాజ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ వెరీ సింపుల్. కెన్ వి గెట్ స్టార్టెడ్? వద్దా నేనే చేయనా? ఉద్యోగం నాకే కదా కావాల్సింది. రైట్. Okay, sir. So let me try to get this programmatically. Okay. Now let me go with EC2 methods. So in EC2 client, okay, let me try to see if there is anything called as describe regions. Okay, so all the regions where basically you have the stuff. So now response is equals to what is it? Get client dot describe regions. But the problem is my response will have a structure. So what is that structure? That is it. And what is it I want? I want region names. Okay. Now, sir, I want a list. Region. Okay. For regions underscore response. So can I write this list? Otherwise, what is it I need to do? For idea, మీకు అర్థమయ్యే భాష చెప్పాలంటే for each region in or for each region response in regions underscore response. Okay, so I'll try to create a list which is called as regions, and then I'll try to each region's response will be this, right? Now over here, what is that I need to do? Regions, and where will I get multiple regions? Of regions. So regions response of regions. అంటే లిస్ట్ వచ్చేసిందా? Now in every list, what I need to do is regions dot append. Okay, what is it? Region underscore response of append చేత ప్రతిసారి ఇది ఈ ఒకటి వస్తుంది. Every time I'll get this list, and in this how do I get a region name? I basically right, and then finally I'll try to tell return regions. Okay, this is something which I can do. Or if you remember, I have spoken about couple of things. One is I can try to do list comprehension, get all the list at one shot and then try to do it. Or I can try to write a generator. Okay, generator is better in this case because you can have lazy executions. So what I'll do is I am removing this. I am basically removing this also, and I'll try to simply say yield. Oh, and when I'm yielding, there is no need for me to do this. Okay, done. Yeah. So now what would happen? I can try to basically get all valid regions. I can try to write in the loop and it will be switching back and forth. మీకు ఇలా నచ్చకుండా అరే ఇందాక రాసినట్టు నచ్చితే అది వాడుకోండి. But I prefer this approach because this is lazy execution. Yeah, right, sir. Now what is it I want? Define. Okay, or get all EC2 by tag. Okay, so in tag generally what is that? I can go with multiple tags, but I'm going with one tag. If you want, you can multiply this. So what is the tag name and what is the tag value? So in tag name, I have basically said that tag names will be a string and tag value will be a string. Okay, fine. And the default value will be, what is that? What is it I have said? env is dev, right? Okay, వద్దులేండి. Default ఎందుకు ఇవ్వాలి? not for my convenience of syntax, right? So let me do this. Okay, so what this method does, this method gets all the EC2 instances. Okay, right. And over here, I'll try to tell action. Okay, action is here the user can pass whether he wants to start or stop. Okay, right. Fine, sir. Now, this is something which I'm basically trying to use. Get all the instances and performs action. So action can be, right now I'm supporting only start and stop. If you want, you can terminate also. Yeah. Okay, good. So now I need to get all the EC2 instances by tags. So first, what is that I need to do? For region in get valid regions. Let me not do anything magical. Let me just try to print the region. First of all, ఇది print అవుతుందో లేదో తెలుస్తుందిగా, right? So get all EC2 instances by tag. Tag name is equals to env. Just for syntax validation, I'm trying to do this. Is equals to dev. But right now, I'm not doing anything with respect to this. Action is equals to start. Okay, right? Since this is going beyond this stuff, I'll try to do this. Any problem with this? And I don't even want to debug this code. Let me try to see if it works or not. Python. Okay, debug kada. Let me try to go into PowerShell. Python ec2 underscore demo dot py. Am I getting all the regions, sir? So these are the regions that are valid for my case. Okay. Now get all the valid regions. Now what is it I need to do? In this each region, get all EC2 instances. Okay. Of the region and perform action. Right, sir? Okay. Now let me go back over here. How will I get all the EC2 instances? So there is a method. If you try to, if you have Googled it, you should be finding a method called as describe instances. And yeah, right. For the people, if you have used CLI, we use almost the similar commands. AWS EC2 describe instances. Yeah, right, sir. Now, if you try to see client.describe instances, but here there is only one challenge. Okay, I want to know what are the options which I can pass to EC2.client, because I can't create a client of Mumbai region and stop the Singapore region's machine. Okay, so EC2 underscore client. If you try to look into this client, I don't want to do that. Okay, let me try to ask Google straight away. EC2 create EC2 client of a region in Boto 3. Even as you will have an argument which is called as region equals to. Okay, so what is it? You need to give something called as region name. So now I'll try to go over here and then I'll try to tell that. Okay, now I can get all the EC2 instances. That is fine. So now over here, let's get all the EC2 instances. by the flag. Okay, or EC2 instances by tags. So this activity starts by create an EC2 client of a specific region. So for this, what I can do is let me try to put region is equals to AP hyphen south hyphen 1. Okay, right. And boto3 dot client region underscore name is equals to region. So whenever you are basically calling, try to pass the region name. Now here, what is that I'll try to do? Now I'll try to get the client. So that is client is equals to get client of region. Now I'm getting a client of a specific region. Okay. Now I got the client object. Wonderful. What is that I need to do next? I need to get all the EC2 instances by a specific tag. Okay. Right. So now if you go over here, where is that method? Yeah. Are you seeing describe instances? So now client dot describe underscore instances. So if you try to look into this, I can pass arguments. So what are the arguments which I can pass? I can create a filter. Okay. So in filters, I can pass many things. So I can pass affinity, architecture, availability zone, all of that stuff. But what is that we are trying to pass? We are trying to pass tags. So scroll down. Are you seeing tag colon key and then values? Okay. So now I'll try to tell that describe instances. And what is it I need to pass? I need to pass by filters. If you don't pass filters, you will get all the EC2 machines. I don't want all. I want with a specific tag. So let me try to use this filter section. Okay. Now the key name over here is you need to give. So let me try to look into tag. Okay. Tag given on the. So you need to basically give something called as tag colon key. Okay. Or you have to write tag hyphen key. I'll be following this approach. So I'll be trying to tell that tag colon my key is whatever I have passed in tag name. That is tag colon env. And what is the value? So right now I have only one value, that is tag value. Am I clear on this, sir? So when I do this, what is it I'll get? I'll get all the instances. So let me try to store this in instances underscore response. And just let us try to print this information. Okay. Just for, okay, getting, okay, searching in for EC2 instances. And even if you don't write, it will work. Okay. Now, when I try to get this, I'll be getting some response, and every response will have some structure. So what is the structure of that response? Let us try to see. This is a little bit tricky. You have a larger stuff. Now, are you seeing instances? Instances in what? Reservations. So now what I'll try to do is for, okay, what is it I want? I just want instance ID for అసలు క్లయింట్ కూడా ఇక్కడ క్రియేట్ చేయాల్సిన పని లేదు, తర్వాత చేద్దాం ప్రస్తుతానికి దీనికి. Why should I create a client before? Okay, right. For instance underscore ID in instances underscore response of first is reservations, and then I'm trying to speak about the first reservation because it is an array, and in that I'll have instances, and in this instances I might have multiple instances. Okay, so now instance underscore response. Okay, sir. Are we clear on this, sir? Now I'll be trying to create a client. Okay. ముందే ఎందుకు క్రియేట్ చేయడం, అసలు ఇది ఉంటే క్రియేట్ చేద్దామా, వద్దులేండి, అంత లాజిక్ అవసరం లేదు ప్రస్తుతానికి. ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ దట్ హెవీ ఆబ్జెక్ట్, ఇట్స్ ఓకే, ఫైన్. బట్ ఐడియల్లీ I would not have done this. I would have created a client only when this is multiple in nature. Otherwise, I would have never created this client object. Okay. For example, the problem with this code is if you go to the Singapore region, and in Singapore region we don't have any any machines, but still we are trying to create the client. Okay. But where did we got this client object? Oh, this is wrong, right? Yeah. Fine, sir. Without this, you can't do it. We have already created a client object. That is fine. My assumption was wrong. I thought we got this response and then we are working with it. Okay. Now, if you try to look into it, every time I get this array, I get this dictionary. And in this dictionary, what is it I want? I just want instance ID. So now what I'll do is, okay, now ID is equals to instance underscore response of instance ID. Now all I need to do is I need to start an instance. Okay. For starting an instance, again, if you remember my earlier code, I have only passed instance IDs. So now to make this code work, I am trying to pass region is equals to AP hyphen south hyphen 1. ఇంతకు ముందు మెథడ్ ని వాడుకోవాలంటే ఇది వాడుకోవచ్చు. So where you don't want to write a new code now, and then you try to pass region over here and do the same thing for stop methods. Now if you don't pass any region, it will try to take Mumbai. If you try to basically do this, you will get this. Now all you need to do is, okay, now if action is equals to start, actually I can try to do action dot to lawyer is equals to start if I want any case matching, but that's okay. Now what is it I need to do? Start underscore EC2 of ID comma region. If action is equals to stop, I can try to write elif because there will be only one action. We are not taking multiple. So stop underscore EC2 of ID comma region. Okay. Now all I need to do is get all EC2 by flag env and dev. Okay. Right. Now let me just try to basically tell that it is trying to that don't use ID. Yeah. Instance underscore ID. Okay. Now print found instance with ID instance underscore ID, and let me put one F in front of it. So right now I don't have any machines which have a env called as dev. Okay. So first let us try to run this code. Okay. So Python okay, what is the problem? Okay, all right. Right now what is happening is we have directly asked off 0, but there might be regions where there are no instances. Off 0 కి విలువ ఉండదు. Okay. Okay. If length of is equals to 0, then forget about this region. Okay, let me try to write searching for EC2 instances, and now let me try to tell that no instances found in అయిపోయిందా? Are you saying it is trying to tell that I don't have any instances? Because to be very honest, I don't have any machine with a tag called as envs dev. Okay. Now let us try to see what is that machine. My machine has a state of running. And for this machine, what I'll try to do is I'll try to go with tags. And then I'll try to tell that I want to manage tags and I want to add a new tags. What is that? envs dev. Okay, sir. Yeah. And then let me try to basically tell that action is equals to stop. Okay. So I think found instance and instance with instance ID is in stopping state, but it has not stopped there. It is continuing. And if you try to refresh this machine, okay. So నేను ఈ స్క్రిప్ట్ ఎందుకు చెప్పాను? There is a reason behind why I try to tell the script. Now what you can do is every day you can try to write this one Python script where every day have a habit of creating anything in AWS with the tag called as envs dev. రోజు సాయంత్రం ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయేటప్పుడు ఒకసారి ఇది రన్ చేస్తే మీ మెషిన్ ఏమైనా రన్ అవుతుంటే అదే డిలీట్ చేయాలి, అట్లీస్ట్ స్టాప్ చేస్తుంది. So if you basically try to implement one more method called as terminate, and then if you give action equal to terminate, and all you have to do is EC2 client dot terminate instance and pass the instance ID, then what would happen is you would basically it would delete all the EC2 machines which are running. Okay. So are you seeing the advantage of tags? Querying and filtering becomes extremely easy. Okay. So was I able to stop all the machines? Right now I have only one machine, but even if I have 100 machines, it doesn't matter. The script will go through every region and then it will try to stop it. This is one of the activity which you can basically try to write in your resume, but not exactly this. We'll be doing something after this. Okay. So what is that? This is to save costs. Every day in your organization, you'll have dev environment, which no one will be using after active working hours. So why to keep them running? So what you can do is, for this problem solving, now all the clouds have started giving scheduled instances. Now what you need to tell is, you need to tell that you have done this activity 2 years ago, not in recent project. In previous project, where you have created a CloudWatch schedule or a cron job, and from that cron job, you are basically calling this Python code, which basically stops all the EC2 machines at night 9 p.m. and starts all the machines at morning 10 o'clock, because your team will start working from 10 o'clock or 9:30, so that you are saving the cost of unnecessarily running the machines for 8 odd hours or 8 or 9 hours. This is one of the activity which does. ఇది ఎంత కామన్ అయిపోయిందంటే అన్ని క్లౌడ్లు దీని ఫీచర్ ఇచ్చేసింది. Okay, but the basic idea is, if I can do this for EC2, I can do this for AWS also. I can do this for stopping anything which belongs to tag environment. Am I clear on this, sir? Okay. So was it really difficult? Code wise, there is nothing. We are basically dealing with calling methods, dealing with dictionaries. Okay. Any cloud functionality is this much. Okay. So tomorrow when we try to speak with Azure or AWS, Azure or GCP, rather than calling Boto3, there might be some other library. Rather than this documentation, there might be some other documentation. All you need to do is align to that documentation and do 1 or 2 examples, and then you can do literally anything. Clear on this? Yeah. Right. So git add. Can we script similar automations using AWS PowerShell as well? You can do from AWS PowerShell, but generally AWS PowerShell is the least used utility, sir. AWS कंटिन्यूटिव चेरी के अंदर दान की AWS बस PowerShell इसलिए दिया है क्योंकि थोड़े बहुत Windows admins रो रहे थे. But AWS PowerShell is not that strong. But you can do it, right? So you don't see a lot of community in PowerShell. Okay. So if you're asking about AWS PowerShell, that is the case. If you're asking, can I run the script from any operating system? Once you do in Python, you can run it from anywhere. Let it be Windows or Linux instances. Okay. Right. Added performing activities across regions. Am I clear on this, Nikhil? Right. Right. Refer here for change. Okay. Good. Now, in the same way, if your company says that in my company I have created access key and secret key, right? Now, in your organization, there will be a lot of users who will be creating access keys and secret keys. But what is the problem with access key and secret key? If I know your access key and secret key, I can log in into your account. So what my company has is, my company has a policy where all the credentials should be rotated. That is, access keys and secret keys should be regenerated for every 7 days. 7 రోజులకు ఒకసారి అందరు యాక్సెస్ కీలు సీక్రెట్ కీలు రీసెట్ అయిపోవాలి. ఇప్పుడు ఇది ఎలా చేస్తాం? Because access key and secret key is something which we give to our developers. If it is something which we are trying to run on our EC2 machines, we still go with roles. If it is role, that is secure, because role is something that is attached to your EC2 instance. Now, how do I solve that problem? Okay. Rotate IAM credentials. Okay. Any activity in AWS, try to Google or ask Perplexity. You will get the rough hint. Okay. And all you have to do is go to that Boto3's documentation and then try doing it. నేను ఇప్పుడు మాట్లాడే అన్ని రెజ్యూమేలో రాసుకోగలిగినాయి. Okay. This is something which happens in every administrative activities. Are we clear on this, sir? Okay. So ఇది మీరు గూగుల్ చేస్తారా నన్ను నేను చేయనా? ఓకే, ఈసారి గూగుల్ కోడ్ కూడా రాయండి. So this time I just don't want Google, I want you to write code also. People on the web, are we trying it, sir? You need to create a new folder in Python, create a virtual environment, try to look at the code, because Perplexity AI generates the same code for all of you. Okay. And then try to create one IAM credential. Okay. And try using that. Okay. If you want, you can do that, trying to tell that rotate IAM credentials with a specific tag. You can do that one also. Okay. Rotate IAM credentials for a specific user. Pune andarki వద్దులేండి, ఒక యూజర్ చేయండి. ఇవాళ ఎలా ఉంటే రేపు ఇంకెలా ఉంటుందో. So rather than creating EC2 client, probably you might be creating an IAM client or an IAM resource. And after that, you might be getting a specific IAM user. And after getting an IAM user, you might be running his keys. అందుకంటే పెద్ద పొడిచేసే కోడ్ ఏమి ఉండదు అందులో. Okay. Now, if you understand the pattern, if I want to delete a RDS instance, get an RDS client or a resource. Once you have an RDS client or a resource, basically try to pass the information to get a specific RDS and then start or stop. ikkade untadi get use an IAM client or a resource object and then list all the users or fetch the user by a specific name and then rotate credentials. Antakante pedda podisese code evana unda? How can we know whether the credentials will get expired or not? So try to see what is that object that is trying to give. Okay, rather than asking me, ask an API reference document. Sir Dilesh, now you should be in a position to look into the response. Yeah, just look into what is the response returning about a user. So if I'm not wrong, when we have tried to look into it, we have used Boto3, right? And right now, what is that you will be trying to look out for? You will be trying to look out for IAM. IAM has a client and a resource. You go with client. And then in this, what is it I want? I want get the users. So try to see what is the method that get the users. List users onto them. On the list users, right? So if you list users, it is trying to that you can pass list users. If you want to match, you can match the path prefix. Okay. And then you will be getting this. Okay. And now in this, what is the created date is present. Okay. Generally, there will be no expiry. You will have created date, but I am not worried about whether it is when was the created date. I want to rotate the credential keys. So now, once I have this user information, okay, I get the user, then go back, and then what is it I need to do? I need to what is it I need to do? I need to create an access key, right? Or isn't create access key? So just for creating access key, what is the method which I need to pass? What is the username? You get the username from that stuff. Idu vadethe ayipoyindiga. Okay, so when you create the access key, what would happen is it will try to give you access keys. What is your access key and what is your secret access key? Now try to store all of this information or send it across a mail. Sending across a mail is not secure, but you can store it somewhere or send over the what you call you can basically send it across via emails, or you can try to store all of this information in specific files. మీ ఇష్టం. ఓకే, అవి మీ కంపెనీ ఎలా పంపించుకుంటుందని తర్వాత విషయం. ఫస్ట్ అసలు చేయగలమా చేయలేమా? సో ఇన్ ద ఎర్లియర్ కేస్, వాట్ ఇస్ దట్ ఐ హావ్ సెడ్? Create an EC2 client. Now what I'm trying to tell, create an IAM client. Ante kada? So tomorrow if I try to tell that I want you to create a DynamoDB table from Python, what will you do? Try to go to DynamoDB and try to see whether I need to create a client or a resource. Whatever you want to. Generally you guys, for you using client is easier. Okay, so try to create a client object, and in that client you will find methods. Just call that method with whatever you want. Can we do this? Yeah, right. Fine, sir. So I am not going to do this. I am just going to try to give some exercises. So what is it I want? I want you to rotate IAM credentials, delete all, delete S3 bucket with some name. So if you can do delete, you can do the creation also. Okay, stop the RDS instance. ఇవాళ మీకు ఇవేమి తెలియకపోతే తెలిసినప్పుడు చేయండి అని. But all you have to do is create a client object and then call the methods of it. And ఇంకేమున్నాయి? What is the other thing which we can do? ఇంకేముంది సార్? ఏంటండి? ఏదైనా ఒకటే. The point which I'm trying to tell is, even if you have to do something fancy, the story is same. Create a client object or a resource object, try to see the method, call the method. Yes? Okay. Now if you want, you can create an auto scaling group, launch template, మీకు కావాల్సినవి చేయొచ్చు, కానీ అంత అవసరం లేదు. Don't go for creations. The point which I'm trying to tell is, don't go for creation and go for managing the state. Okay? Because creation we do it from Terraform. Yeah? Right. సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ డైలీ మీరు సిస్టమ్ మీద వర్క్ చేద్దాం, మీకు వచ్చే ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటి? నా దగ్గర EC2 మెషిన్ ఏంటి, దాని IP అడ్రస్ ఏంటి ఎత్తుక్కోవాలి, అవునా? రైట్. సో గివ్ మీ ద పబ్లిక్ IP అడ్రసెస్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ ద EC2 మెషిన్స్ ఇన్ ముంబై రీజియన్. అది మీకు ఉపయోగపడేది. డోంట్, వాట్ ఎవర్ కంపెనీ గివ్స్ యూ కెన్ ట్రై టు డూ. ద పాయింట్ ఇస్, ట్రై టు రైట్ సంథింగ్ విచ్ ఇస్ యూస్ఫుల్ ఫర్ యూ. ఓకే, సో దట్ వెన్ ఎవర్ ఐ వాంట్ పబ్లిక్ IP అడ్రస్ ఐ ట్రై టు రన్ మై పైథాన్ కోడ్. ఓకే, దానికి CLI లేదా, ఉంది, కానీ ఇది వాడితే మీకు రెండు వస్తాయి. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ ఐమ్ ట్రైయింగ్ టు టెల్. వాట్ ఎవర్ యూ నీడ్, వాట్ ఎవర్ యూ డూ జనరలీ. ఓకే, so from now onwards, what is it we'll try to do? We'll try to create all the resources with a tag called as env is dev. Okay, and evening what you can do is, I have basically spoken about deleting all the EC2 machines with tag env dev. You can do the same thing for S3 bucket, same thing for whatever we are going to create. So even if you by mistake you forget to do the activity, what you can do is, at the end of the day, just run the script on the system before shutting down, so that everything whatever you have created will be deleted if you don't want it. Okay, right. So are we clear on this, sir? Now if I ask you to do some activity in AWS, can we do now, attempt now? Yeah, because it is straightforward. Okay, now if I try to basically, let me ask Perplexity AI with this. Okay, so what should I ask? Okay, delete an EC2 instance using Boto3 EC2 resource, not client. Client is straightforward, because EC resource is a class object. So now, till now we are dealing happily with methods. Anni methods ఉంటాయి, ఇది కొంచెం ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఓరియంటెడ్ గా ఉంటుంది. So what you are trying to tell is, you are trying to create an object of EC2 instance with a specific ID, and then inside that object you will have methods. They are not difficult, but it will be much more convenient if you try to look into it. So right, IAM client, if you go to the IAM resource, are you seeing there is a resource called as access key? Now I can create an object called as boto3.resource IAM.access key, pass a username and ID. Once you call this, you will have simple things: activate, deactivate methods. This is like object methods which you will have. మీరు ఎలా వాడుకున్నా నాకు పర్లేదు. ఇది ఏంటంటే ఇండివిజువల్ రిసోర్సెస్ ఉంటాయి. This is more object oriented way of basically doing the things. Client is low level methods. You just create IAM client, you will have all methods of IAM. But here you will have specific resource level: access key one resource, EC2 instance one resource, VPC one resource. Ila resources ఉంటాయి, but resources an individual element, and it will have high level methods. Okay, but client is straightforward. Just create EC2 client, it will have all the methods of EC2. Create IAM client, it will have all the methods of IAM. But if you try to go with resources, you need to create individual resources. Okay, generally admins don't like this idea, developers like this, because they can create whatever they want. Yeah, right, clear? Okay, fine, sir. So let us take a break, and after this break we will basically, I'll introduce you to serverless. Okay, and in serverless in AWS we have something called as Lambda. Okay, right, and hopefully there is no more noise in this room, because I'm trying to speak. This was easy. Yeah. So now are you confident that you can try to write Python code to do something in AWS? So if someone asks you to delete something in AWS using Python, do you know what Boto3 is? Okay. Boto3 has only two objects for everything, client and resource. And include paginators and only. Paginator, for example, if you have 100 buckets, I don't want all the 100 at one shot. I want only first 10. After that, other 10. అలాంటి ప్రయత్నాలు మీరు చేయరు. You and me might not be doing that activities, but that is what pagination is all about. But for you, it is client and resource. Yeah, right. Methods are nothing but functions only in OOP. Yeah, but the concept is over there are class level functions and instance level functions, right? Yeah. So one which you write with self and one which you don't write with self object. Yeah. So go to that classes and then you will be able to figure it out. But the point is function and method, they are same, but at what scope changes. Okay. So for example, over here, what I have written is something which I'll be calling as a function. Okay. But if I have written this, something like class EC2, and in this I have written def start. So this is something which we call as class level method. So for this, what you need to do is you need to write something called as EC2 dot start. Okay. Now, but if I try to write this method, which is called as def stop self comma id. For this function to work, what you would be trying to do is EC2 is equals to object of EC2, that is EC2 of, and then you will be trying to write EC2 dot stop of whatever id it is. So I hyphen either 1 2 3 4. Okay. Conceptually they are methods, but there are scopes. That's the whole point. Am I clear on that, Nikhil? Yeah. Right. Fine. Okay, sir. Let us go out for a break, come back, and then continue our discussion on serverless technology. Right. Okay, sir. So whatever code which you are trying to write in Python, we can try to run it in an EC2 machine by installing Python. వినపడుతుందా? ఇది డబ్బులే సరిపోతున్నాయా? Right, sir. Okay. So whatever code which you try to write, one way is run that in a virtual machine or a laptop or something like that. Second one is we can run it inside the container. Okay, but that is also logically equivalent to running on a operating system. Okay, logically, not actually. Right? Web we are able to clearly hear. Good, sir. But the problem is I am also able to hear a lot of noise around here because there is that Ganesh Chaturthi, right? Today and tomorrow there are a lot of yeah, right. So now serverless is a model where you don't need to basically, for example, if I want to run the fast API method which we have written, what is it I need to do? I need to execute that command uvcorn, try to run the code, and that should be running all the time. And only when that is running, when someone hits a request, then your code will be executed. Okay. So the basic idea is if you want to, if the end users want to run your application, your server should be running all the time. Yeah. Right. So whether he is calling API once in a month, once every minute, it doesn't matter. You have to run your server all the time. But when it comes to serverless technology, this technology doesn't mean that you don't need servers. This technology basically means that AWS creates the server when it is needed. So when someone makes a request, then it tries to create the server environment and it will try to run your code. And only for the duration what your code is running, you will be paying the bill. Okay, right. So why should I actually even consider this technology? Okay, one thing is when you have certain functionality which doesn't need to run all the time. That is the first case. And the second case is for ad hoc requests. Okay, and the third case is for automation. Okay, third case is for automation. Okay, right. So AWS serverless, and if you try to speak about serverless computing, Lambda is something which basically tries to come over here. Okay, now it is trying to tell that lower your costs, but that is not entirely true, right? So with server Lambda functions, if they are basically used too much frequently, this might be more costlier than EC2 machines. Okay, right. But the point over here is you need not worry about scaling. So whether one user is calling this, 10,000 users are calling this, I am not responsible for scaling. AWS will scale. Okay, right. And I forgot the technology's name, sir. Okay, let me ask it. Lambda, AWS Lambda. What is అండర్లయింగ్ టెక్నాలజీ? దాని పేరు ఎలా మర్చిపోయినా నాకు గుర్తులేదు. వయసు పెరిగిపోతున్నట్టుంది నాకు. దాని పేరు ఏదో ఉంది సార్. ఐ ఫర్గాట్ ద నేమ్. యా, రైట్. So internally, AWS has given something called as Lambda, but actually it runs on something which is called as Firecracker. Now with Firecracker, what you can do is you can try to run, it is a very simple virtualization technology which runs a simple code. Okay. Now Amazon has taken this, and since this is open source, they have made all the necessary changes. And if you try to see, the Fargate technology and the Lambda technology is something which runs on this. Okay, right. Fine then. So now what is the serverless stuff? I'll try to give this. This is more than enough. Okay. Now, what is an advantage of this? One is cost only when or charged only when code is executing, right? Scaling is handled by AWS. So no load balancer jazz. Here you don't need to worry about any load balancers. Yeah, but there will be a component called as API gateway that will come into play, but I'm not sure that whether we'll be able to go to that extent in this extremely noisy environment. It is difficult for me to go there. Okay, but the point is scaling is handled by AWS. Okay, right, sir. So now what I'll try to do is, let me go over here. Okay, and let me delete this machine. Machine the panle, right? And let me basically go into Lambda. I'm not sure if there is something that is running in Lambda already. Oh, chala chesamandi mano. Actions, delete. Right. So close. So there are no Lambda functions. Now what you can do is this Lambda function can be written in many languages. It is not necessary that it has to be a Python language. So let me try to create a function. Here what you create is a very simple functionality, and then it is asking you in which language do you want me to write it. So do you want to use .NET 8? Do you want to use Java 12, Node.js, Python, Ruby? Okay, whether you want containers. This is basically for Go, C++ and all that stuff. And if you try to see, the whole list is this. So what is our area? Our area is Python. And then let me try to tell that this is my hello Lambda. Then it is asking what is the architecture which you want your code to be in. Manam rase code ki pedda CPU architecture anta podisese pani manam cheyalem. Right. Now for Lambda there is need for role, but at this moment let us not worry about any roles, just keep it to default. And now if you go into advanced signing, then it tries to tell that is your Lambda function, does it require any network connections? I don't, man rase function anta avasaram ledhu. Let me try to click on create function. Okay, sir. Now when should Lambda function be called? That is something which is called as a trigger. Now I can try to tell that this Lambda function should be called, or you can from Amazon Alexa, API gateway, application load balancer. There are loads of things whenever an object is added into S3 bucket. Okay, and then you can also basically try to look into many other external things. Okay, so when this function will be triggered is something which you can call. And once this function executes, does it need to do something else? Okay, prastanik mana anta dooram kuda elladdu. Now, if you try to look into this lambda function is a very simple function, which is a function with two elements. What is it? Event and context. Okay. Let us not do many things over here. Let me try to print the event object, and let me try to print the context object. Now, once you create this function, let me try to click on deploy, because to make this function work, you need to deploy this. Okay. Now, shall we test this function? And over here, you can try to write test and configure test event. So lambda function, what it does is, when you are calling lambda function, you will be passing some data. And lambda function will be having some environment in which it runs. So over here, what I'll try to do is, I'll try to tell that the event name is hello lambda. And for this, I am sending this JSON. Me kavalsin JSON raskunnaka. Okay, I'm quite sure we know what JSON is. Yeah. So over here, let me try to basically write something like topic is serverless. You can try to send any JSON for that matter. Let me click on save. And then once you click on test. So what happens is, 1 minute, sir. I have been signed out. Uh, 774,861. Okay. Now, let me basically click on test code lambda function, and then click on test. So what is it this test trying to tell? What is the first thing which I've said? Print event. Now, if you try to look into it, okay, where is execution results? Right. So this is the log. So what is the event? What is the event that has printed? Whatever message which you have passed, that has become an event. And then lambda context basically tries to tell about what is your request ID, where are the logs getting stored, what is your stream name. This is all the information about your AWS lambda. So context will contain what? Lambda information. And now we can do one more thing. Let me try to type of context, because in Python we have a method which is called as type, right? Now deploy this function and then try to, okay. So event is a dictionary. And then what is that we have? We have something called as lambda context. This is a class. Copy this, paste it over the word, and using the lambda context object. So when you look into lambda context object, from this object you get what is your function name, what is your function version, right? So what is your log group name, what is your log group ID. This is all the information about your lambda function. Ante lambda ekkada run avutundi, dan function పేరు ఏంటి, ఆ లాగ్స్ ఎక్కడికి రాస్తుంది, ఇలాంటి డీటెయిల్స్ అండి. lambda function का नाम क्या है, log details को कहाँ log कर रहा है, वैसे सारे information इसमें मिल जाएंगे. That is basically what lambda function context object is all about. Now, if I want to handle inputs and outputs, I need to deal with event methods. Okay, let us try to do a very simple function at this moment. Okay, right. Let's write a simple lambda function which adds two numbers. Okay, right. But for me to add two numbers, I need to take the input. Where will I get the input from? Event object. Okay, so I'll go over here and I'll try to tell that I'll go and write the lambda function, and then I'll try to tell that. Okay, so let me try to tell that number 1 is equals to event of number 1. Number 2 is equals to event of number 2. Now result is equals to number 1 plus number 2. Now if you try to see, there is a method called as json.dumps. Okay, so now let me try to create a result dictionary. Result underscore dict is equals to dict of. Now result underscore dict of number 1 is equals to number 1. Result underscore dict of number 2 is equals to number 2. Result underscore dict of result is equals to result. So JSON dot dump result dictionary comma indent equals to 4. ఇది మనం ఇంతకు ముందు dictionary to JSON and JSON to dictionary. This is something which we have basically done. Now let me try to deploy this method and let me try to configure test event. In the configure test event, I'll try to tell that my number 1 is 10, comma number 2 is 20. Let me try to click on save, and now let me try to click on test. Dump method ఏమైనా తేడా ఉందా? ఓకే, అడుగుదాం. Dictionary to JSON Python. మనం ఏదో తప్పు రాసి ఉంటాం. ఓకే, JSON డాట్ dumps, మనం డంప్ అని రాసినట్టున్నాం. ఓకే ఫైన్, వీ కెన్ సెట్. వేర్ ఇస్ దట్? Deploy and test. Sorry, I think I got indent 4 ఇచ్చాను కదా, అందుకే ఇలా ఉంది. But what is it? Result is equals to number 1 equal to 10, number 2 equals to 20, result equal to 30. Yeah. So if I want it, ideally that you should not be writing \n because this will occupy more space. But how much time did this code executed? 2.01. You will be charged exactly for that. You will be charged exactly for that. Am I clear on this, sir? Yeah. Okay. Now, what is a serverless function now? Try to write a simple function which takes a input, generates a output. And now whenever you receive that input, you can basically do the activity. Now over here, what I write is I can try to write a lambda function. If you remember, we have written EC2 machine start stop. Okay. So I can try to write a lambda function which starts and stops EC2 machines based on tags. And then this I can call from REST API using an API gateway. So whenever you hit the request saying that, okay, these are the machines which you need to start and stop, this lambda function will execute and do the job for you. Okay. But we will get into all of those details in our next sessions. But did you understood what this is all about? Yeah. So in this case, right now there is no bill. Because why? No one is executing lambda function. When there will be a bill? When someone executes a lambda function. But okay, AWS free tier. Okay. Now if you try to look into AWS free tier, okay, let me try to look into serverless. Okay, where is lambda? Okay, what is it trying to tell? 1 million requests is free per a month. మనం చేసినవి 2. Okay, so then this is not only free for 12 months, this is always free as long as your account exists. Okay, so serverless basically, and it is trying to that you can basically have 4000 GB seconds. This is how much of data you are processing. Okay, మనం ఎంత పొడిచినా ఆ నెంబర్కి వెళ్ళాం. Okay, for whatever practice which you and me are doing. Yeah, but if I start basically handling continuous requests, yeah, probably I might reach that. Okay. So did we understood this basic aspects or no? So what is a lambda? You write a simple function, host it as a function. Whenever that function is getting called, you will be charged. So what is that I'll try to write in this function? So for example, generally I'll not restart my machines, but very rarely I'll try to restart EC2 machines. Okay, and I want to restart a machine when someone sends a request, right? So I'll try to write it in a lambda function. And when that request is raised, I'll trigger this lambda function. This lambda function will reboot that machine. Done. And then there is no need for me to basically worry about the cost, because only for the duration that machine is running, I will be charged for it. Clear on this, sir? And then while you are creating a lambda function, ideally there will be configurations. For example, if you try to see right now, my memory is 128 MB. So if you are doing greater jobs, you can try to increase this, and you can go till, yeah. The moment your code is executing more than 15 minutes, AWS will automatically stop your lambda function. ఒక ప్రథమ సూత్రం ఏంటంటే ఇందులో ఉన్న కోడ్ 15 నిమిషాల కన్నా ఎక్కువ రన్ అవుతే AWS చంపేస్తుంది. So lambda codes are not supposed to be long time taking executing stuffs. So what you need to do is you need to think of in a asynchronous way. So for example, I want to upload a file, or whenever, for example, I try to tell you this use case. Whenever someone uploads an image in S3 bucket, so try to take that image, convert the image's size to be minimal, and then restore inside that. So whenever S3 bucket is uploaded, your lambda function will be called, and in this you will be trying to write image conversion logic, store it back to S3 bucket, and delete the original image. And this will fail if your image conversion takes more than 15 minutes. So never ever try to run anything which takes more than 15 minutes to execute inside a lambda function. Okay, so these are short time taking tasks. For example, if there are those kind of dependencies, so if my image conversion takes more than 15 minutes, let us assume that is the use case, then divide your work into parts. Okay, so probably for example, let us assume that I am trying to process image conversion ki 15 నిమిషాలు workout అవుతుంది, but let us assume that I am trying to do a UPI transfer. Okay, UPI transfer code I have written in lambda function. So now request is something which I create in a lambda function, and then I need to wait till the request is approved or failed or whatever it is. Then what I need to do is I should not write everything inside one lambda function. So what I should be trying to do is, whenever someone triggers, then lambda code initiates a payment. Okay, that's it. Payment initiation, this lambda function's job is done. Wait for notification event. Okay, so when that notification event tries to tell success or fail, so handle success in a lambda function. If the things fail, you can handle failure. Okay, one event. So someone triggers, payment executes, and you execute the payment by triggering some other system, and that system, when it responds back, you will be calling two more lambda functions, either success handling or failure handling. అసలు ఇందులో కంటిన్యూస్ గా రన్ అయ్యి కూడా రాయకూడదు, అసలు దీని డిజైనే వేరేలా ఉంటుంది. దిస్ ఈజ్ ఆల్ ఈవెంట్ డ్రివెన్. ఓకే, సో యూ షుడ్ బి హ్యావింగ్ షార్ట్ టైమ్ టేకింగ్ ఫంక్షన్స్ అండ్ ఈవెంట్ డ్రివెన్ స్టఫ్. ఓకే, so for example, in this, if I am trying to process a Swiggy order, I will write a lambda function where only it is responsible for creating an order. That's it. Not waiting whether the order is successful or failure. For that, I need to implement eventing system. Okay, we will discuss about these kind of architectures and some sample applications where this comes into play. But the whole point is, as an administrative jobs, మీరు ఇందాక lambda function start machine start liki stop liki రాచారా, అది ఇందులో కూడా రాయొచ్చు. Okay, so the machines which you try to want to start and stop, tomorrow what will I do is, whatever machine which you have started by tags, we will try to write it in lambda function, so that we'll stop all the EC2 instances. Okay, but I'm not sure whether I'll be able to finish Azure and GCP equivalents for this also. But let us see. If it takes more time, we will try to have one more session over the next weekend. The idea is to finish, not finish tomorrow. The idea is to finish all concepts. Okay. Generally, if syllabus prakaram finish cheyalante ayipindani cheppochu. I can't do that, unfortunately. Okay. If it takes time, probably this week, let us see how much of AWS and Azure we can cover, and next weekend we'll try to speak about GCP also. Because whatever you are doing in Lambda over here, Azure calls it as Azure functions. Google call it as GCP functions or Google functions. Both, all the three are serverless. They also take events. But the point is, here what was the syntax? Define, for example, if you go into this, here the syntax of this code was, come on, something which looks like Lambda handler, event and context. There you might not have a similar stuff. You might have some other syntax, right? Variable names might be same, but there also you are writing Python code. So we will try to do the similar activity on GCP and Azure also. Okay, right. And then there is one more thing which we need to basically speak about. In AWS, I have not spoken about that because in AWS we have something called as Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, right. So remember, I spoke about something called as platform as a service. Amazon's idea was they try to tell this as platform as a service, but unfortunately, this is not platform as a service. This is the EC2 machines only which it tries to create, and this is not very popular. But I'll try to speak about deploying a Python fast API application in Azure as well as GCP, but not in AWS. But right now they have given something called as AWS App Runner, which is a very good idea. But the point is, this indirectly runs containers. Okay, so this is easier to handle. This is good, but the point is, it is indirectly all containers. So yeah, we will try to see what we can try to do. But the whole point is, let us try to basically focus on PaaS platforms are very much famous in Azure and GCP have better options for PaaS, not AWS. AWS is very good with EC2, very good with serverless, but not so good with PaaS. Indirectly in PaaS environments, they have directly given Docker containers. And they already have ECS. ECS Fargate and okay. Fargate on the mat kanabadithe then ardham endante meer vaadithene bill. They have given something called as, for the people who know Kubernetes, they have given Fargate Kubernetes enabled, in which only when you will be paying for the pods which are running, not for the cluster. Yeah. So ఈ పదాలన్నీ మీకు అర్థం అవ్వకపోతే ఏమీ తప్పలేదు. ఇంకో 2 వారాలు ఆగితే మనం ఎలాగో డాకర్ కుబర్నెటీస్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తాం. మీకు వద్దన్నా కుబర్నెటీస్ వినాల్సి వస్తుంది. Right? Fine. So are we clear on this? Yeah. Today I'll not go anything beyond this. But did you understood what a Lambda function is? Simple function. And what is the basic condition? That function should not take more than 15 minutes. If it takes more than 15 minutes, manam sampurasana AWS itself will kill. Okay, and Lambda functions are not supposed to store anything inside them. If they want to store anything, they have to store external, because if you start storing in Lambda, that means you are paying extra, right? And Lambda is not a file system, right? So we will try to understand how to deal with all of these functions stuff. Okay. Now the serverless technology has become so popular that companies, some of the clouds have giving serverless databases. Yes. So only when you execute queries, you will be charged, and you will be paying for disks. Another database on sir, then query le unjitla. So only storage cost, but not really for the engine that is basically running. Okay, Amazon offers it for Aurora and all of that stuff, but yeah, not seen a lot of enterprises adopting to that. But yeah, because no one will keep database idle. Yeah, all right, fine, sir. So today I'll stop it at that. But the point which I'm trying to tell is, anything which you can do in AWS from console, you can do it from Python, you can do it from CLI. The most easiest way to do that is client, because client contains all the low-level methods. Resources means you will have VPC resource, EC2 instance as one resource, security group as one resource, and it will be like object-oriented programming. You just pass the object and then handle the stuff. Okay. Now, at least you guys be good with clients. That is more than enough. There is no need for you to worry about resources. But resources are actually flexible, because in this case of where I was rotating credentials, there is no need for me to create a client. I can create only access key resource. Okay, but అంతవరకు మీరు చేయలేకపోయినా client అయితే easy, ఎవడైనా చేయొచ్చు. And for whatever code which anyone is asking, for example, if you try to see some interview questions on how to do this in Python, okay, there is only always a simple equation: create a client, find the method. Sometimes one method will not be able to solve the stuff. For example, if you try to look into this, what is that? Get all EC2 instances by tag. There is no one method for it. Now what you need to do is you need to call 3 or 4 methods and combine your logic and then try to do this stuff. Okay, so what is that we have done? Get all the EC2 machines in all regions with a specific tag. So what is that we have done? We have combined multiple functions and came up with our functionality. Tomorrow what we'll be trying to do is we will be trying to run this as a Lambda function, and we will expose this as a REST API. And when someone basically calls this API method, then I will automatically be starting or stopping methods. So that becomes more what do you call, more flexible. Okay, the advantage of that is, for example, if someone tries to tell that in my company there is a ticketing software like ServiceNow, and in ServiceNow, whenever a new employee is created, added to your team, you need to give him IAM credentials. So try to write a Lambda function where it creates IAM credentials and sends mail to the email. And then whenever ServiceNow raises a ticket, it speaks with Lambda function. And Lambda function basically generates a response and sends it back to ServiceNow. And in the ServiceNow, user can see his access keys. Ante. This is all automation. For that reason, we need Python. Okay. So if it is creating from AWS, creating from UI, you don't need to do all of this. ఇలాంటివన్నీ చేయాలంటే. Okay, right. When a new employee is created, automatically add his account to AWS. How will you do that? Otherwise, you have to raise the service ticket and wait for everything to be done manually. But you need not do that. You can automate all of this. Okay, all you have to do is make ServiceNow speak with your Lambda function, and Lambda function's response, store it in ServiceNow tickets detail. And ServiceNow or these kind of ticketing softwares generally will have API integrations. Expose your Lambda as a REST API. Done. Okay, ఇలాంటి కథల్లో సగం కథలు మీరు ఇంటర్వ్యూలో చెప్పగలిగితే ఏదో అద్భుతం చేశారనుకుంటారు. That's it. Yeah, right. What is the industry scenario? ఇంతవరకు నేను చెప్పింది ఏంటి సార్? So these are exactly the scenarios where you need to write Python scripting, because generally if you want to make external systems speak with AWS, we need APIs. And the easiest way to expose an API is write a Lambda function, expose it as an API. Okay, right. Fine then. Now you can do anything in AWS, right? For example, I want to add a node in Kubernetes cluster. It might look fancy, but all you need to do is, okay, what is it I have said? What is it I want? ఏం కావాలి నాకు? EKS cluster లో ఒక నోడ్ యాడ్ చేయాలి. Yeah, it looks like as if it is difficult activity. Difficult లేదు, ఏమీ లేదు. So just try to look into EKS, go with client, and then try to see a method where it speaks about, okay, updating node group config, and then try to see if there is anything to do with create cluster, create add-on, create node group. So when you create a node group, you can do it, and then you can also update some of the, yeah. So generally when you try to update node group, you can also specify number of nodes inside that. Okay, ఏదైనా you take anything in AWS, you can automate it. Okay, right, sir. Good. ఏమైనా ఉపయోగం ఉందా? లూపులు గట్ట రాయగలమా? Sir, and one more thing is, don't measure our Python classes in terms of number of days. Okay, so you can compare whatever you have learned conceptually with any full stack programmer. You would be learning much more than them. Okay, because generally full stack programming is more about UI programming. Okay, so in that what they do is they basically try to focus more on Django and REST API. We are not done that. Not REST API, Django and web application. How to add users, how to add. We have not focused on all of that. Our focus is on APIs. Yeah, right. Okay. So now do you understand every day how our classroom notes is getting uploaded? Since you understand a little bit of Python, that is my curiosity. Right. So I'm writing markdown, right? నేను daily class ఏం చేస్తున్నాను? Markdown రాస్తున్నాను. So now I try to run my application in WordPress. So what I've done is WordPress REST API. Now what I do from my Python code is I convert the markdown into HTML format and I upload all the images and I speak with this API and upload the notes. ఇది రోజు చేస్తే చాకరీ అని నేను ఒకసారి పైథాన్ కోడ్ రాసుకున్నాను, రైట్? So this is how you basically try to build something, right? So yeah, now whenever I try to debug this code, what this code does is, if you try to observe, I'll try to tell, if you want you can try this. Many people have asked me many times, but I have not answered them because coding knowledge లేదు కదా. So right now if you try to see what I have done is, in this repository I have committed the code in Git repository. Now what this code does is, it goes into my folder and tries to get the latest commit. In latest commit, whatever changes are there. So for example, let me try to debug this code. Are you seeing files updated in last commit? Yeah. Commit చేయబోతే ఇది పని చేయదు, మళ్ళీ పాత నోట్స్ అప్లోడ్ చేస్తుంది, అప్పుడప్పుడు ఆ తప్పులు కూడా చేస్తుంటుంది, రైట్? So if you try to see, we have uploaded and there is only one file called as MD. Now what it does is, it converts this markdown into HTML and uploads it to the WordPress using REST API. Okay. It is making a REST API call and this is the response which I get from that API client. And మీరు దీంట్లో క్లోజ్ గా అబ్జర్వ్ చేస్తే స్టేటస్ కోడ్లు కూడా ఎడుతాయి. Okay, right. Now since WordPress has received that, it is equivalent to me going and uploading a notes. That's the reason when I try to do directDevOps.blog, okay, but I had to write some logic to name this heading and all that stuff. For that I had to write some stuff, but all of this is possible. And నేను చేసిన పని చేయడానికి మీకు ఇప్పుడు వచ్చినంత పైథాన్ చాలా ఎక్కువ. Okay, so because what I'm trying to do is reading a file, trying to basically look at what is that section is Python. So Python classroom notes, format date in this format, and then send a REST API with all the converted HTML. అదే నేను చేసింది. Okay, right. So first of all, when I asked one of the I wanted to automate this. Initially I thought one of the students has said that, sir, I'll try to automate this by using what do you call RPA. What RPA does is, it clicks, so it will go to directDevOps.blog, go over there, WordPress, click, baboy assaloddu. But because for that the problem is, I have to keep my screen and wait and looking at this like that. I said I have basically looked into REST API and then I've written this code because this is extremely simple. Okay, now you can also do these kind of things because, okay, right, మీరు డైలీ ఎక్కువ ఏం చేస్తారు, ఫేస్బుక్ లో పోస్టులు చేస్తారు అంతేనా? యా, సో ఫేస్బుక్ పైథాన్ ఎస్డికే, బిజినెస్ ఎస్డికే మనకు అవసరం లేదు. రైట్, ఆటోమేట్ ఫేస్బుక్ పోస్ట్ విత్ పైథాన్. ఏమి లేదు ఇందులో, ఆడో క్లయింట్ ఎత్తాడు. ఇప్పుడు మనం AWS SDK బోటో 3 వాడు ఏం చేసాం, EC2 మెషిన్ క్రియేట్ చేసాం, అక్కడ పోస్టులు క్రియేట్ చేస్తాం, రైట్? సో ఇన్ ద సేమ్ వే, ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు స్పీక్ విత్ LinkedIn, ఐఎమ్ నాట్ ష్యూర్, బట్ LinkedIn Python SDK. Are you seeing LinkedIn Python client? So now try to see what are the methods that are available in this client and what is that you can try to get. Okay, REST client, that is fine. And from this, try to see what are the methods. If you want to get everyday jobs, okay, పొద్దున్నే మీ రిక్వెస్ట్ లో ఎవరన్నా ఫ్రెండ్లు యాడ్ అయ్యారా, ఇవన్నీ you can basically pull. Every application which you use has some kind of an API, but for that you have to create a token and use that token. That's it. Yeah. Right. Fine, sir. Okay then. So I'll stop it at that, and hopefully tomorrow also we'll have the same noise. Okay, and tomorrow the noise will be much more than what today is. Yeah, and but let us see. Yeah. So noise ఎక్కువ అయిందనుకోండి, what we'll try to do is we'll try to take this online, completely online session. Okay, but if it is manageable, then we'll try to do it from here. అసలు మనకి సౌండ్ ప్రూఫ్ రూమ్ ఒకటి ఉంటే బాగుండేది, పక్కన యూట్యూబ్ స్టూడియోలోనే ఎక్కడన్నా, నేనన్నా అక్కడ ఉండేవాడిని. రైట్, ఫైన్ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ.